What's everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Grand Torino. Before we get started on today's subject, I'd like to remind you all, as I normally do, I importune, I beseech, I plead with you, please don't forget, press the like button, press the subscription button and the bell, and you'll be reminded of future broadcasts here on the Grand Torino. And another quick shout out to all my PayPal, Patreon, and those of you subscribing on the Grand Torino website, World Wide Web, grandtorino.ie, for your continued support. I implore, I importune, I beseech you, please make your way over there and buy a cup of coffee even for the Grand Torino, just to keep this platform going. Some exciting times coming up ahead, and we want to be there to help bring you the information and news reports that mainstream will not report on. Now, my next guest I've had on previously before, many of you are well aware. He does regular broadcasts from Sweden, keeping us abreast of what's going on within Sweden, and the comparisons between Sweden and Ireland and throughout the rest of Europe are now becoming more and more clear, as we can see the same sort of tactics between mainstream media, politicians, the security services, trying to blanket and trying to cover up what is the elephant in the room, which is, for all of us, mass migration. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you Sanity for Sweden. Stefan, how are you, sir? Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Rowan. It's good to see you again. Very good. Thanks for having me again.
Not a problem, sir. Really enjoy your daily broadcasts. Thank you. It's such a refresh, and it's such a straightforward way that you have of detailing the information. And I really love your Swedish, the way you purport yourself in Sweden. Yeah, goodbye. This is the news. This is happening. Deal with it.
So glad you like it. Glad you like it, Ron.
Loads of people do. And your subscription base is rising steadily, which is very encouraging to see. Yes. What I like to do, and what I'm trying to play around with these conversations, is just to set the premise out, as I explained to you before we started broadcasting here. I wanted to touch on personal consequences for citizen journalists such as ourselves. This is what we ascribe ourselves to be. We want to cover the stories that mainstream won't cover, are afraid to cover for risk or jeopardy of their livelihoods. Second of all, will be the security services' responsibility in targeting criminals and targeting crime and reporting on crime. And third of all, we'll finish off on what you announced this morning and what broke here in Ireland, that Ireland has agreed to President Macron's quick initiative, an automated and hurriedly process of accepting refugees. And what they're doing now is they're trying to push out refugees to other European states. It initially started off at 14, but it's now being reduced to 8. But I know Ireland is now one of the nations that has agreed to take on France's overspill. But first of all, Stefan, let's go back to personal consequences. One of your recent broadcasts, you were speaking about you had some sad times. Your father-in-law, your girlfriend's father, which I'm sorry to hear, recently passed away. But there was a refusal on part of her extended family to extend to you an invitation to attend the funeral. Can you touch upon that briefly, and just for you personally, the experiences and what you've had to, what's happened in your life since you started speaking out and broadcasting on this platform?
Well, yeah, it's we've been talking a lot lately, me and my girlfriend, about this. Of course, it's been quite dramatic, still interesting. You know, it was sort of bound to happen. This conflict has been below the surface for some time, and it's my girlfriend's sister, basically, and a few other women around her, relatives to my girlfriend. They started to protest against me speaking up. As soon as I started, actually, it was like a shock to them. They are politically correct, sort of left-leaning, all of them, and yeah, it was a shock to them, because before I started to speak up, they liked me. They did. and I liked them. You know, I knew they were lefty. I don't care
Mm.
how people vote or what their political views are. You know, I always look to get this contact and find out what they are about. There's so much more to life than politics, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
So they liked me. We had a good relationship. Uh, I went there to dinners and birthday parties and stuff, and I met them. It was all fine, and then it was not, and they started to backstab me to my girlfriend, and they never talked to me. And this, what happened was, my girlfriend got very upset. This became a problem, of course. She wanted them to like me and me to like them. And she got into this position where she had to defend me. So it was tough on her, basically. And I, of course, got pissed off. And I wrote them a letter where I told them what I thought about it. And I asked them to talk to me if they have any problems with my political views. And they never did. And that's where we left it at that time. But we always knew that there was a problem, because they really can't stand this fact that I don't see the world the way they do. It's very hard on them. It's obvious, and that the fact that I'm living with their sister relative who they love very much, it's very hard for them to cope with this.
It seems to be, how shall I say, a lot of people are just inculcated in their, or ensconced in their sort of epistemology. I keep referring back, is that they know what they know and they're comfortable in that, and they accept that. And with political correctness, as it has encroached upon all our lives since I first became aware of it in the 80s, when certain words were started to be rescinded from normal conversation. Oh, you can't say that anymore, or it's offensive to say that anymore. And bit by bit, it incrementally increases into more thought police. So these words start to become exclusionary, and you find yourself um, patrolling your speech, or how you express your opinions. And then more and more overtly, we just laughed it off at the start. That's crazy kind of talk. Oh, what do you mean you can't say this anymore? But behind the scenes, everybody would just talk normally to each other, but then in public, or in situations such as family situations and stuff like that, you find yourself more and more guarded, because a certain member of the family would be very ensconced in their position and would be very quite vocal about it, without looking to the other side's position. As opposed to, I always try and listen. What can I learn from somebody, even if they don't agree with me? And I try not to set out that I have the winning situation. No, I come with something that's pretty much diametrically opposed to what you espouse, and this is your position. But we should be able to communicate between us and effectively reach the compromise. But it seems with the enforcement of political correctness, and now here we are 20 years later, where it's actually criminalized, where they're trying to push this hate speech barriers. At the moment, I spoke to you briefly before we started, another YouTuber here, Gemma O'Doherty, who has been protesting outside Google HQ here in Dublin now for the last 5 weeks. It's escalating further and further because the locals are starting to put in noise complaints. And it's got to the point now over here where there's a local council meeting, which is being called by some of the Fine Gael councillors, who are the party in power, to see if there's something they can do, some legislation they can bring in. This is the sort of tiptoe feeling out process of these hate speech laws that they seem to carry out. What they don't understand is hate speech is protected under freedom of expression in this country, or freedom of speech in the United States. All speech is covered in the right to express your opinion publicly without causing incitement to violence, all the usual without screaming fire. But they seem to want to bring in these to escalate now political correctness to a place pretty much like the UK, where thought and espousing opinion on social media is now a criminal offence. How is that ramping up now in Sweden? I'd say it's off kilter over your neck of the woods.
Well, they did close down a very important website a few weeks ago. It's called Sweb TV. And we pretty much know that it was ordered by the Minister of Justice here in Sweden. There is no proof, but we pretty much know it. And then they took it back. And this was a big win for us here in Sweden, because this was an important channel, and they did nothing wrong. There was no hatred whatsoever. And now it's back on. And I think they got scared, the government, because there was now, people started to talk about this being actually illegal. The government cannot decide what people should be able to say or not say. So it's quite interesting what's happening here. And it's fascinating with Gemma and Google over there in Ireland. I think it's very good what you do. Very important to keep fighting, and sooner or later this will crack open, I think.
It is ramping up to a boiling. It's still simmering away at the moment, but as I said to you, the enforcement, the constant enforcement of these hate speech. Now, we had a Green Party councillor down there who was a second-generation immigrant, but she said she was accosted, or she's been receiving telephone calls of racism and putting it down and putting her down. But it's how shall I say? Because she is, I suppose, to be second generation. She's also a Green Party member, so she's on board with the climate change. She wants these draconian hate speech legislation brought in, but it's the constant references that I was racially attacked, or I was racially slurred. She brought back to a time when she was younger that her parents were racially, or that she was racially antagonized. But I would say that's schoolground bullying. You were just bullied like the rest of us. You just got bullied. Deal with it, man up, woman up, and get on with your life. This perpetual victim. And she's been picked up by all the mainstream, as I see that they're probably alluding her to elevate her up now into her election campaign because she's a councillor. Now she wants to look for mainstream, because I think the powers that be, which is pretty much the formula over here, is when the coalition between the mainstream parties, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, break down. When things get a little bit ropey, what they do is they rope in their useful patsies, the Green Party, and they will bring in these draconian measures like they have done previous. But I think the Green Party is going to be the stooge for bringing in what they're trying to bring in, hate speech legislation, and also the climate change, or the climate tax. And then all the blame will be ported on the Green Party, and then they'll just disappear out of politics again. Meanwhile, our constitution will have been affected and changed once again. The Green Party will have dissolved and gone off to nowhere, never land, having to take the blame for all this climate tax nonsense that's coming in. But the demonstration itself went pretty well, went off key. But the left, and I wouldn't say the left, there's a few instigators that we know over here. These 4 or 5 people tried to set up a Nazi salute. The same game plan that the Antifa do in the United States. Will push in patsies, throw out a Nazi salute and go, oh, look, these nationalists. Right. And all we flags that we were flying at that day was the Irish flag. And on the other side, not one national flag. You had your unicorns, you had your George Soros paid for placards, down with this sort of thing, and careful now. And I hear you're a racist now, father. But it's all well shielded. But these 4 or 5 patsies, steering the crowd, pushing the narrative, and other 4 or 5 complacent. Now, we recently caught the guys that were setting up the Nazi salute, and like it's the modern age. Everybody has a phone, so we have loads of different. We had loads of different camera angles, and we were able to show that this guy was searching out another guy, waiting for the signal till he was in place to take his picture. But mainstream, RTE, they're all lapping it up. They've all been reporting on it. They're trying to smear Gemma and her supporters as these racist Nazis that are so desperate to find just to vindicate their position for even existing in the first place as anti-fascists. That sort of bullshit does not belong in Ireland. Ireland in itself, and I know I'm soapboxing here, Stefan, we have a unique history. We have been here for just for near on 1,000 years. We have never colonized anybody else. We've never, and people say, but the Irish went out throughout the rest of the world. Yeah, because we were genocided through the first Barbary slave trade. An estimated 4 million people were captivated and taken out through the Barbary trade. And you can see that with accents in Trinidad, Tobago, and all these little islands where there's still people there speaking with Kerry accents. We were decimated. And then the following on, then we had what was called the famine, which in actuality was a genocide where the British troops kept all our food, took it off and brought it to the mainland Europe and left the Irish indigenous to starve. That was a genocide, not a famine. And people left because of that persecution. But when they left as Irish people, they didn't get free houses, they didn't get free welfare, these free social. We were treated worse than the blacks in the United States. We were treated worse than the blacks on the slave fleets because black slaves then were seen as more, had more price to them than the Irish slaves because the coloured slaves or the black slaves could work harder and longer and were worth money. So we were the very bottom of the pit. And for them to come over here and for the usual institutionalized, college educated, university educated that have never got a purport a real job, cannot live in the real world, are desperate to find these Nazis to vindicate their position. Do you have anything similar like that over in Sweden?
Yeah, we do. This sounds like fun, though. what you're describing here. Yeah, I'm sure we do. Yeah, of course. They are very anti-fascist here in Sweden. Mainstream media and the establishment. Yeah, it's about fascism. And our PM, he keeps talking about fighting fascism, fighting populism. That's the main target for all of his speeches, I think. And you never hear him talk about his responsibility for keeping the borders open and the problems that we see in Sweden. No, it's not. I don't think it's going to work very well. You know, the left actually lost the last election here in Sweden. The right won the election. Somehow they managed to keep the socialists in government still, but because there were two parties who just switched sides. So I'm amazed with all this stuff. I am, and I'm curious. I'm curious about people. Really, you know, the people that I talked about on my girlfriend's side. You know, I'm curious about them, how they think and how they act. They sort of brought it up to a point where conversation is now impossible, right? And I think, you know, I'm sorry about this, what happened here. I'm particularly sorry about my girlfriend, but she's stepping up to it. You know, she hates this stuff. You know, she wants to be with me, and now her siblings are attacking her about me, you know, my political views. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. So we'll see what's going to happen here.
And you know, speaking from personal experience myself, you know, when you adopt this position, or when you dare dip your toe in the pond and start speaking out publicly, because beforehand, through the generations, we didn't have this facility where we could mass stream or mass publicize ourselves to our own audiences. Now that we have this ability, it's kind of like our own virtual soapbox. And again, we're just coming out. I mean, for me, on my end of things, I'm trying to protect the culture of Ireland. I want more and more people to stand bravely and stand strong and protect the Irish culture. Now, it's been conflated in mainstream that we're all one, we're a melting pot, and isn't it great? Think of the food, think of the different foods that we're able to get and all this kind of stuff. But I said the main reason that people come to our country here is to experience the Irish culture, is to experience the Irish experience of traveling around this beautiful, great country of ours I know Sweden is a beautiful country. Been to Stockholm many times, but when you come to Ireland, it has its unique character in the people that you interact with. The Irish, that's dissipating now. You don't get the Irish waitress. You don't get the Irish barman anymore. You don't get the Irish cracker agus ceol. It's more manufactured. Publicans and hotels are trying to draw in the old traditional bands so that the visitors will come and sit down and they hear the diddly-eyed music and, oh, it's great. But when you go in, and more the feedback is, well, it's not the same. You know, Dublin is turning into a Malmo in a sense that I was speaking to you earlier on. Nationally and statistically, and you can link this and go search for yourself, our rape statistics are now, since 2014, have a 60% increase, are starting to go through the roof. Our HIV, I keep mentioning, is starting to increase, something similar. But when you dig into the statistics, most of those purporting with HIV prevalent are from foreign nationals. So we're importing an epidemic, and we're also importing a rise in a rape statistic. And I go, well, you can't. What's your correlation? Where is your evidence for this? Well, if mass migration is the big push, and because of mass migration and open borders, our crime stats are rising up, and more offenders are foreign nationals because our court systems are bleeding dry with translators. I mean, these translators are going from one courtroom to the next, Romanian, Polish, Nigerian, many different languages cost, many different interpreters, so more hidden costs. One of our great YouTubers here, The Don, recently did a breakdown. I'll leave a link in the description below for your viewers, Stefan, and he absolutely scolded the left because what's happening is the left are adopting the American cultural Marxism, and they're trying to transplant it from the United States to bring it here. The identity politics, the intersectionality, divide the family unit, divide the mother and father, divide the parent from the child from the parents. Now, as you say, divide the extended families, separate, till eventually what's coming around and what's happening is now that the left will eat itself, but at what cost to our society? What cost to your society, my society, if we left this cultural Marxism, this political correctness go on unchecked? Now, they've had it their own way for years, Stefan, but you're speaking out, I'm speaking out. People are taken to the streets. Small numbers, mind, but they are taken to the streets. People are beginning to feel more and more emboldened because they only have to look around at reality in front of their eyes. And look at Dublin. Dublin specifically here in Ireland is changing drastically, and it's losing its core essence. We just want the conversation. We want representation in the Dáil. There is no right of politics, if there is such a thing. There is no oppositional politics. It's just, whatever you think, Fine Gael, let it go. Brussels tells us, take in these migrants, which we'll get onto now in a second, and our politicians bend over backwards. No pun intended, if you know who our Taoiseach is. But you're getting that as well. I mean, your security services and your mainstream hide your rape epidemics. I mean, see, Sweden suffering a huge rape epidemic.
Yeah. What I noticed lately, what you addressed a bit, is that I think this is happening. People are starting to realize, in Sweden, you should be ashamed of yourself. This is what the establishment is promoting. You should be ashamed of yourself if you eat meat. You should be ashamed of yourself if you want Sweden as it used to be, you see? And now I realized, I hear this, I see this on social media a lot. People are starting to say, I don't care. I'm not ashamed of this. This is my thoughts. This is what I think. I'm upset about the rape statistics in Sweden. I want to talk about it. And I want Sweden as it used to be. I want this culture to survive. And I noticed this a lot lately. And it's great. The alternative media situation in Sweden is very strong. And we saw this now with this example where they closed down Sweb TV. Very polite, decent channel. And they closed it down. And there was... people were outraged, and there were so many who started to talk about it. It was discussions, and I think somebody said maybe this was a test. maybe the government did a test, to see how much support do they have. How many people do we actually upset with this decision? I don't think it was a test, but it sort of looks like it, because the test was, well, the result was people got pissed off, a lot of people, and the government pulled back. So we are getting strong, you see, we're getting powerful. And if media did their job, we wouldn't be doing this. But they don't, do they? They do something else. I don't know what they are doing. It's ridiculous. So we have to tell the truth.
At our own personal expense as well.
Yeah.
Another diktat from the Brussels elite, non-elected elite, as they slowly see their power base slowly crippling, as the what I'd say the populist, as we just said there, the populist nationalism is wakening up throughout Europe. Not a moment too soon. But you reported earlier on this morning as well, and I have it here from our own RTE, that Ireland agrees to plan on migrant resettlement across EU Europe. And I'll just give a quick read through, Stefan, and just see if it ties into what you were talking about this morning, to what we're saying over here. But 8 EU members states, including Ireland, have agreed to actively participate in a new solidarity mechanism, quotation marks, to resettle migrants and refugees across the European Union. After a meeting of EU Foreign Affairs and Interior Minister in Paris, French President Emmanuel Macron said that the new initiative would be quick and automatic. No need to discuss this with your populations. This is happening. He said European countries have made progress on plans to redistribute refugees rescued in the Mediterranean, efforts criticised by Italy's hardline Interior Minister Matteo Salvini. Bravo, Salvini. The issue of what to do with the thousands of refugees still attempting to reach Europe by crossing the Mediterranean Sea has sparked a sharp response in some European countries, with Italy saying it's bearing the brunt of the problem while its EU partners do little to help. Like I say, I'll link the article in the description box down below. But effectively, Matteo Salvini has said no. Italy cannot take any more, and Italy's gone from something like 180,000 per year immigrant influx down to about 20,000, and it's even reducing even further like that, with Matteo Salvini removing refugee camps, even illegal refugee camps, and taking down refugee camps, and in fact deporting people and sending them back. Yeah. Because as we know, as what we know is that Libya is a fallen, failed state, that Libya is a hotbed of slave trading, actual human slave trade pits in Libya. And those that can afford, those that have sold their well-being, their whole livelihoods, €3,000 for the price of a ticket to cross the Mediterranean, they only have to get out 11 miles out of international waters, and they're then picked up by the George Soros NGO boats. Now they're getting scuppered. George Soros is being implicated in the Epstein filings in the United States. He's actually being linked to the CIA. And I'm hoping that the tidal wave that comes from the United States, the fallout, especially from the Epstein incidents, where many Hollywood political elites throughout the world will be tied up with that. They're doing their best to stifle that, but with the supposed killing or suicide attempt by Epstein. As yet, no report from the police as to the actual cause of death. Obfuscation running rife. But then we've also got the FISA-gate, how the initial investigation was started up on President Trump. Now I know I'm steering away a little bit like that, but when did you first hear about that Ireland is taking up migrants, and is Sweden? I mean, are you taking in any as well?
Well, we have a very big flow of migrants coming in. Now it's very popular to get these the relatives, the people who came here in 2015 and 2016. Now the government decided, with the support of the parliament, to also accept the relatives. So there's a big influx of migrants into Sweden, and I think this is probably the reason that the Swedish government managed to get away from this deal with Emmanuel Macron, this great president of France, and
The Rothschild
refuse.
banker. The
Yeah, he is.
Rothschild banker. What? Let that
Yeah, he
sink
is.
in.
I usually call him this beautiful man or something, because it's just, he's such a clown, this guy. But he's the one running this show. It's obvious. He's the man.
He's the mouthpiece
Yeah,
for it at the moment because Merkel's power base is dissipated and she's faded because the Germans have had enough. The Germans
yeah.
have had enough. Now, I would say that the reason
It's amazing that this is happening.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry about Ireland, and I heard about Ireland a couple of years ago. I did a video. The first video I think that I did about Ireland was this decision. I don't remember it exactly. I talked about Varadkar, this decision to multiply the population of Ireland up until 2040 by, I think, and it was like a decision. So I'm very sorry about this, and I was sorry to see Ireland on the list of governments who will be working together with Macron.
Well, we have a very complicit and dandy set of politicians over here that are so ensconced with the progressive liberalism over here. But it's a big money-making racket. A third of our politicians are millionaires, and another third of them are landlords. So the slum landlords are appearing again, and the politicians lap it up because they tell their builder contractor mates, go buy a hotel in rural Ireland, go buy another hotel in Rosscray. Rosscray seems to have another influx, and they are actually the Department of Justice and Immigration, and they're actively seeking vacant premises and vacant hotels, nigh on asking people to open up their bedrooms and take them in. But at what cost? Now, I know Sweden is a very seen as a very sought after place because your welfare system is huge. You pay an average wage in your welfare payments, so people are drawn. You get your free housing, the usual stuff. We have pretty much the same state here. We have open borders and we have the welfare state, and we have huge overrepresentation of foreign nationals on our housing lists, on our waiting lists, nigh on over 50% in some areas. Some nationalities, foreign nationals, are actually more than Indigenous Irish, like Laois, for example, over here. So, like the basic economics, I want to give a shout out quickly while I think of it there, Stefan, to some other YouTubers that have just done some great sterling reports, and to any of your guests and my guests or my subscribers that haven't yet seen them. And I'll leave all the links to all the channels in my description box. The Don, who I just said, did a great breakdown on the situation of Irish politics and the recent demonstration. You have Computing Forever, Dave Cullen, who broadcasts Justin Barrett's and various other leaders' speeches down at Barrow Street. And he spoke about the 700,000 people that are on our waiting list here in Ireland just to get any sort of medical assistance. But nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room. The reason we have 700,000 people on the waiting list is because we have open borders and we have more and more people flooding in to take advantage of our healthcare system that are already crippled and out of date. But our politicians go, yeah, we'll borrow from who? Central Bank, Rothschilds. Keep borrowing, keep putting us in usury, put future generations in usury, free healthcare, free medical care. Nothing is free, Stefan. Why won't they understand? Nothing is free. Doesn't it cost you in your pocket directly, but it's going to cost your children's futures. And indeed, the immigrants that are here now, their children's futures, when there's a contentious issue and, things start sparking off for real, we can still clear this up now and speak about it if we just talk to each other now. Very good. Well said. Great feedback, Stefan. Great feedback. It's the stuff that mainstream won't talk about, the elephant in the room. And I want to say to here as well, Stefan, there's two elephants in the room. One elephant, let me get over here because my background, one elephant being the mass migration, but the second elephant in the room, and rooms can have many, many elephants in them because if they're imaginary, is China. Nobody's talking about the China taking over our buying up lands, buying up our are nationalizing our ports and stuff like that. We now have a Chinese company here. One of the worst pollutants around the world has been given drilling rights off the coast of Ireland. And what they
I
do
see.
once they insert themselves in is they start laundering, giving the politicians these, let us come in and let us take care of the drilling rights, but we have to manage it, and we have to take a percentage of the profits from it. But we will loan you the money for these drilling rights, but we will manage it. And again, it's a corporate strategy for takeover. China is expanding. Nobody's talking about the Chinese military buildup. The reason the United States is once again being seen as the savior throughout the world is because of their military presence. And it's the only thing holding the Chinese back. So the Chinese are building their Silk Road 2.0. If you're having a look at it, and you can see it, a fantastic, some of the engineering feats that are going on across the world over that side of the world as China spreads out its tentacles and starts for global dominance. And I'll do a second video on a speech that was recently pushed my way where it details the 16-year plan of Chinese dominance. And they spoke about it 16 years ago. They said they were going to have to cap 200 to 300 million in the United States. Just kill them, get them off, because if America's the good guys and they're the bad guys, then the bad guys have to win, and they'll do whatever is necessary. They're doing it economically now by inserting themselves into different zones throughout the world. See, I think it's Zambia sold a port to them there now because they couldn't afford the paybacks. So bit by bit, if you look at what's that place with the mines, like obviously Afghanistan, Mongolia. Mongolia has huge mineral wealth, but the Mongolians are down in the mines while the Chinese are operating the management positions and shipping it all back for Chinese consumption. But if you want to see fascists, go check out what's going on in Mongolia, and you'll see them actually wearing the boss uniforms. Anything to say on that, Stefan?
Sorry?
Anything to say on that? I think I'm proselytizing here more than we're interacting. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I know it's all true. China, the takeover. And what better people than to rule the world than the Chinese communists? Yeah. Well, that's a dangerous situation, of course. Yeah. I know in Greece, I was in Greece last year, I think. I heard the Chinese bought up some harbors, airports, so they are expanding. I'm happy to see Trump fighting them, but it's a problem, and I really don't like China at all. I mean, we're talking about very nice people, of course, a lot of people, but the way they control their population is really, really terrible.
Well, they've used a mix of communism with capitalism. Everybody thinks it's a capitalism, but every corporation works on behalf and is fed by the committee. So everything that every company or business is working is doing for the betterment of China, and at the behest of the Chinese, the committee that runs it, with Xi Jinping. I mean, they're asking. I mean, if you're talking about religious discrimination in China, they've actually got 1 million Muslims in camps over there. They don't want any religion. They want all effigies throughout all their businesses throughout the world. Any signs of even Christianity or cross, take down your cross, put a picture of Xi Jinping on the wall. So they're completely atheist. They have no morality in their thing. They just want what's best for the Chinese. So for world domination. So people have to understand, even these corporations, this drilling rights, it's only for China. It only benefits China, and they work towards that specific strategy goal that this general, that Xi Jinping himself also spoke about, global domination. And mass migration is a factor in it because it's causing social breakdown. Societies are breaking down, and again, further division, making us weaker and weaker because we cannot stand behind a single cultural identity, a single cultural language, and we cannot have nations by consent, nations cooperating with each other, and we're all lumped into this Federation States of Europe, and we must do what Brussels says. Not anymore. It's not happening. Not anymore, because they let the genie out of the bottle by giving us access to YouTube and letting us speak amongst ourselves. And those of us that are rocketeering, yourself, I see your channel is growing exponentially time and time again, because it's just matter of fact, no bullshit. And while I'm on it, Stefan, the quick list is the Dawn critique, Computing Forever. Paris the Noise did a great breakdown. I'll drop that in the link. Spoke about open borders and stopping immigration. Who else? Gemma O'Doherty. Gemma O'Doherty's moved over to her Anti-Corruption Ireland YouTube station. I'll link that down below. And there was actually another young fella as well, and a young Gen Z. Hopefully I'm getting that right. Keith Woods, and I'll list his YouTube channel over there. And there's been a new podcast by two new young chaps that was recently recommended to me there this morning. And I don't have it to hand, Stefan. Let me quickly, because I think it's important that I get these guys a quick mention if I can. No, sorry. But
All
again,
right.
I leave the link in the description down below. So you have many YouTube stations. I see you have the golden one over there. I think he's Swedish as well. Do you follow the
He's
golden
Swedish,
one?
yeah.
Yeah, I like
I listen to him occasionally. He's a funny guy. He's a good guy.
I think it's important that those of us that are up ahead or way behind, that we support and push each other channels out, because sooner or later, as what's happened to Gemma, what they're trying to do with Gemma, is they will start picking us off. And those that are gaining any sort of prevalence, even now, I ask your viewers from anywhere in the world, go YouTube or go Google first, then DuckDuckGo, then Brave. Look out for the Grand Torino and see what search results you'll get back. I'm already being pushed out to the side. I'm already being shadow banned, as they say on Twitter. But we've got Gabs, we've got Minds, we've got BitChute. We've already got presences there. So I hope you're building your presence on all them other platforms as well. Because
yeah, I have a backup. I have a backup plan. I'm on BitChute.
Good.
Yeah.
You've got that link on your description box too on your channel?
Yes, I do. We have this chance, and I think we're doing very well. Just imagine if there weren't any alternative media, we wouldn't stand a chance.
We'd be the pamphleteers. We'd be writing it down, and
exactly, we would.
Again, that's not a bad strategy going forward, to try and reach those that are just stuck in their day-to-day, or start leaflet campaigns, start opening the discussion about open borders and mass migration.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's good though, right? What we're doing, because we're reaching so many. The word is getting out there. The discussion has started. Well, I talked to a good friend of mine in the United States the other day, and he asked me, "Do you have any friends?" Yeah, and I told him, yes, I do. Actually, I have about 3 friends here in Sweden that I would call friends. And then he asked me, he's a bright guy. He asked me, so are they nationalists? Or, yeah, that's right. They became nationalists, and we are still good friends. The other ones, I just lost them.
Yeah, similar to myself, but I mean, the way I say it is, if they were anyway sort of your friend in the first place, they would accept you for who or what you are because they're your friend. And if they didn't agree with your politics, yeah, that's okay. Let's just go down the beer and shoot some pool, or crack a few heads open, heads open somewhere else. But yeah, I can't dare speak with you. How dare you have that opinion? My God, the poor refugees. My God, get out of this room. Sorry.
Exactly. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I think it's going to change though. Yeah. And now I'm looking forward to it. We can do some gloating in a couple of years, maybe, when people will come to us and say, "Hey, you were right."
I think we'll go through some tough times just before that happens. Many great points. Just cognizant of the time here now, Stefan. I don't want to drag it on too long. If you've got anything you want to speak to us about before we sign off, anything you want to tell my audience about, obviously I'll leave a link to your channel down below. I encourage you, I implore you, check in with Stefan. If you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe to this channel. And as I was saying, I think amongst the YouTube fraternity or community, and those of us in a position should try and elevate as many other people and bring as many other YouTube channels up, and promote them.
Well, yeah, because this is the solution. Support your channels, get active if possible, start your own channels, write, subscribe, share. This is what is needed, and this is why we have a chance, and that's why we are doing so well. And I think it's a positive thing that I noticed very soon when I started doing the videos. All these very great people out there very smart, who will not buy this globalist bullshit. And, you know, they're good, great people. I would love to have more of them and see more of them. But there are millions now, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
We are millions, and we are doing a fantastic job. And the fact that they are trying to, well, they are shutting channels down. This is the proof that they are afraid. They hate what we are doing. The establishment, they hate it, and they want to silence us.
Because we're changing the Overton window. We're moving the Overton window. We're saying they're not telling you the truth. I mean, I've often said I may be wrong, but I'm not lying. You know, I'm open to be wrong. If I'm wrong, if you've got better information, boom, stick it down there. But I will not be afraid to say or speak my opinion, especially in this day and age where it's milkshakes and it's fucking pansy talk. But come the real day when you see how people have to fight real wars, or what it's like to actually be engaged in a war or train for a war, and you will see the horrors of what is to come. We can avoid that at all costs just by opening up the conversation and not labeling people, which the left so clearly wants to do. Racist or fascist, homophobe, Islamophobe, dictaphobe, homo-iptophobe, all the phobes. Bullshit. I'm not prepared to listen to you anymore. Listen to me or else.
It's great, Rowan. Very, very good.
All right, Stefan. I think this whole interview was just about me sounding off. It was great to have you. Great to have you on board here again. And I would also like to include myself as number 4, as your fourth friend, and many other people over here who enjoy you would consider themselves your friend too, Stefan.
Yeah, I'm glad you look so well, Rowan. You look healthy. You know,
healthy.
Maybe that milkshake did you well.
Yeah. Just got me more infuriated to get back in the gym again. Hit the gym and hit the jiu-jitsu. Oh, sweat the jiu-jitsu. And that's not too late for you either. Get in, and I encourage all my viewers and all my subscribers. I know I'm always purporting and saying about it, but if I had my way, jiu-jitsu would be a curriculum in schools, because it gives people a sense of confidence. It gives you a sense of your capabilities, but it also lets you know that there's some other great monsters out there that could just turn on you just like that and just fold you up into an origami piece without even thinking of it. But that's not the ethos of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is about courage, loyalty, integrity, honor. You know, the basic core values that the family has. And by that, we mean having honest, open, principled opposition, principled discussions, not underhand tactics, trying to smear people as Nazis and set up, bring in some outsider and say, oh, look, there was a Nazi salute there. Nobody believes that bullshit in this day and age. Maybe I'll do another broadcast later on and just start ranting, Stefan, because you haven't had a chance to talk. Sorry about that.
That's no problem.
Okay, my friend,
It was very, very good, and I had a lot to say too.
I do.
It was good to see you.
In a very Swedish way. Yeah, this is good. Bye now.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say sign off, and I'm going to thank my guest, Stefan. Thank you, and we'll definitely be speaking again in the future as we go forward. Please, I encourage you to go over and check Stefan's channel out. Also, if you're unhappy with Ireland taking in these migrants, or not even being asked, or start filling up your politicians' email box. Start ringing their telephone numbers. Start ringing your local councillors. The by-elections are going to come up soon, or a general election is going to come up soon. Your number one conversation of all you need to speak about, because everything else falls after that. What are you doing about mass immigration? What are you doing about open borders? Everything else will flow down after that. You know, if we could just get a hold of that and control our own borders and be a nation once again. Our nation once again. I'll leave you with that. Stefan, thank you for joining me, sir. And I'll see you, and I'll bring you back in again on next time. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much. Don't forget, press the like button, press the subscription button and the blue bell, and you'll be reminded of future conversations here on the Grand Torino. And if I missed anybody on the YouTube rundown, I do apologize. I'll try and catch you on the next one. See you again on the next episode. Wuss.